So we'll have a little bit of a talk about greenhouses now. One of my neighbours was complaining one day about he was getting frost in his greenhouse. That's how cold it gets around here. And so I started experimenting around. I bought some greenhouse fabric and I discovered that yes, the greenhouse fabrics, the commercial greenhouse fabrics, aren't very good for protection against frost. So I started experimenting around with different things, and I found that glass is really good, perspex or acrylic is really good, polycarbonate is really good, and even things like shade cloth helps because it does the same thing as trees do. But what I found was the best cheap solution was this stuff. It's called core flute, and it looks like a little bit like corrugated cardboard in that it has a little bit of air inside it. There's basically two sheets of it with a little bit of air inside it, and the particular plastic that it's made of is like glass in that it's reasonably clear to the heat that comes from the sun, but it's pretty opaque to the heat that comes off the ground and radiates into the sky at night. So it's opaque to low frequency infrared, but clear to high frequency infrared. So I built a greenhouse out of it. This is actually the second greenhouse I've built out of this, and there's another little bit of a failure in here that I'll show you. These are pawpaw trees that even inside this, because it gets so cold, you can even still get frost inside this. And you can see that this pawpaw tree got really severely frostbitten last year, and it's just sprouting and coming back now. So even inside this amount of greenhouse, with all this amount of heat, it still could get frosted. Now I've pulled a panel off there. The way I build greenhouses is I don't want to do this opening and closing on twice daily that some people do with greenhouses. So I had to design it simply so that it could let the heat out that you get when the sun's shining on it during the day, but try and keep the heat in during the night. So what I've done is I basically built it really sloppily. So there's spaces in it where air can flow through. And you can see up here, you can see bits of sky through it and stuff like that. And what that does is that during the day there tends to be more wind than there is at night. So the wind tends to blow through the gaps better and take the heat out. However, it still wasn't enough in this area to handle -6, because pawpaws don't like frost at all, and these ones got quite frosted. Now we'll go and have a look at another greenhouse that I've taken it to the next stage, where the pawpaws, I've been getting fruit off the pawpaws right through winter, when it can be going down to -6 or even -8. Okay. Here's a close-up shot of core flute so that you can see what it looks like, the construction. Variations of this are used in real estate for sale signs and stuff like this, but this one is fairly reasonably clear, lets a lot of light through, doesn't stop too much light. It's probably about a 50% shade factor, which is good around here because we get 40 degrees quite commonly in summer, so a little bit of shade doesn't hurt. So this is another greenhouse I've built, a temporary one, that was just built because pawpaws came up in a garden bed I'd put here, and I thought, well, let's just build something around them to protect them. So this one, the pawpaws survive through winter because of an innovation that I have that we'll go in and we'll have a look at. Now you can see that inside this greenhouse it's a lot more lush than in the other one, and that's because of the soil's better here, but also the greenhouse works better. Now I've pulled the top off it and part of the side off it for summer so that it doesn't get too hot in here, but this is the innovation here, is 200 litre drums of water. Now, there was originally I originally had 3 of these drums in this small greenhouse, and they heat up during the day and they release the heat at night. So when you combine that with the insulation and greenhouse effects of the core flute, it's just kept it warm enough here for me to be able to get pawpaws in -6 degrees. However, these pawpaws have now got tall enough so that they've outgrown the greenhouse, and I'm shortly going to have to cut them down and allow them to regrow at a lower level if I want to get more pawpaws off them, because I won't be able to put the roof on for winter at this point. But this here, maybe we'll go outside and I'll show you in the next talk. We'll talk about wicking beds.